continuing our series on growing up in an African home. And we're basically just discussing our experiences of growing up with African parents who are not really fond or accustomed to the North American ideals. So we're going to talk about the pressures of careers and the pressure to get married. So I have Martha and Sephora. Okay, my first question for you guys is, because I feel like African parents, they have, for the most part, I'm going to say general, I'm just giving like a whole, putting out a general idea out here. African parents all are interested or at least want their kids to be somewhat like educated. You feel like there's a certain taboo when it comes to like college versus university type of thing, and them feeling like, oh my gosh, if my kid goes to college, they're not as good as another kid who's going to go to university.
They want them to be superior, and they feel like their definition of education, because of back home, when you're a doctor, you're honored. When you're a teacher, you're honored. When you're a politician, you're honored. So they feel like to get to that place, to get to that position, you need to, the way you go to, like, the education that you should have should be university. Because they see that that's where you will gain like the knowledge and the knowledge and the wisdom of being a doctor and whatnot. But college, you actually have time to, if you can take nursing, do something practical to get you to that place, and you can still be a doctor. I don't know, by going to college, taking some courses, and eventually, transferring your courses to university courses, and eventually get that degree. But African parents, they don't see it that way, and they also feel like, I feel like most of the time they feel like college is a waste of time, and they feel like a diploma is nothing compared to a degree, which I believe is false, because today a lot of people have degrees and don't even work in the fields that they studied for. And I feel like when you have a diploma, the good thing about going to college that I like, personally for me, is having that experience of being hands-on, actually experiencing what it is like to be to become a future teacher, or the co-op process and whatnot. And I just feel like that's what's best for me. So I feel like in that sense, I feel like African parents should do what's best for their child and the way they learn. It's not about how they learn, but it's about the way we learn, because we grew up in a Western world and in a Western culture, and that obviously is not the same as African culture.
What do you think?
Well, first of all, I'll say it's not all African parents. Yes, there is a stigma. I think this happens because most parents don't understand the difference between college and university. That's the first thing. Like, if you want to go into college, you have to explain to your parents what it is. You have to show them why a college is good, why you want to, attend a college over a university. And I definitely agree with her. I think there's some people who have degrees from colleges and they don't even use it. So a college, it's useful for you. And then again, I think parents need to believe in what the child wants to invest in. Like, if your child wants to be a hairdresser, she can be the best. It can take her where, it could take her places that you would have never imagined. So their minds should not be limited to small thinkings. I feel like they feel, okay, they devalue a job, they devalue a position. And I'm like, you shouldn't do that. You should believe that your child has the potential to push forward and, take this thing places. Because your child is a hairdresser, everyone wants to, be a hairdresser. People want to aspire to be like her. So that's what, parents need to do. They need to believe in their child. They need to invest in their child and help their child, attain the best that they can attain. So, yeah.
And like she just said, your child choosing to be a hairdresser, it could be the best that they could ever be in the world. Like, I don't know, I will just say Tokyo Styles, because that's who I know right now. But your child, if you see the talent in your child, and you see that they're good at hairstyling or whatever, put the child in hairstyling, because you see. But do you feel
like they have because for me, I like that you guys brought up the idea of hair, like being a hairstyle, or being I don't know, anything in fashion or even in makeup. I feel like there's they don't support necessarily entrepreneurship ideals, you know? So
Yeah,
you give the
that's
example of
very
a
true.
politician, a lawyer, a teacher, a
doctor,
doctor, you know, and all those things are conventional. I think that the thing with African parents is that they have certain ideas, you know, sometimes maybe, I don't know if it's that they want you to do like necessarily what they do, so it's kind of like this pressure sometimes. And again, it's actually not all parents. I think it really depends on the type of family that you come from and also their personal experiences. You know, that could be whether they were successful or they were failed, that they failed at what they wanted to do. Because I've seen some families where it's like the parents wanted to do something but they didn't have the opportunity, so they pressure their kids so
To
that
do
they
it,
can
yeah.
obtain what they never got to obtain. And I think also another important thing too is like our parents, I guess, come from Africa and they come here and they're sold this idea of a better life, and so they want us to take advantage of that education because it might not necessarily be the same for all people back home. You know, I said that there's a pressure for marriage and then there's a pressure for like education. Do you feel like one is more important than the other?
I want to be educated because it's funny because I always have this conversation with my dad. Well, my parents always have this conversation with us. I mean, it's important to be educated because when you're going into another family, not only do you represent your parents, but you want to come and be educated. Like, like the things you say, the way you act, you know, like your parents, like your in-law is gonna look at where you got your education from, and they're gonna look at your parents based on the way you act. And I feel like your education first of all, your education doesn't mean going to school. First of all, I feel like your education is in your character as well, in your mentality, the way you're raised. I feel like that's very important. Your education doesn't end at just having A's in school, because you can have A's and act like an immature person. Like, you have absolutely no education, you don't respect people, you're impolite, you don't know how to act.
You mean like manners and
Yeah,
shit, yeah.
you don't know, you don't have manners. And I just feel like education is really important in that sense, because you want people to respect you, you want to be taken seriously eventually, you want to know what to say and what to say. So I feel like education, you can't be, if you don't have education, if you're not educated, you can't get married, in my opinion, because like, I feel like it takes a certain type of maturity for you to even get into that ballgame.
Are you trying to say that education gives you maturity?
Yeah, because you can meet, I know so many intellectual people that are extremely immature.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like, and the education that you're talking about is, I feel like that's an education that comes from more your upbringing.
Your upbringing,
you know? And
Yeah.
this is more like
that.
focused on like, I guess like a formal education which you would receive from like an institution.
Yeah.
But I do like the point that you received, because you brought up, because you talked about how you represent your family, you know, and I like that you said that, because I feel like that's also like a motivation or a reason behind why your parents want you to be kind of educated. Like, because I feel like with Africans, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong or if you guys feel the same way, but they attach like the child's success or failure to the parents. So when the child succeeds, they'll be like, oh wow, like so like did a good job in raising their kids, you know? Like sometimes I'm sure you've heard your parents say
That's very wrong though.
you don't think so?
Oh no, it is. It
true.
happens, but I'm saying it's very wrong. Why do we have this concept of, oh, you blame the parents? Like, for instance, there, 3 children.
Yeah.
One is very good, one is very modest, and one is bad. One likes partying, one doesn't like school. Are you gonna blame the parents?
No.
One is So, and why do we do that? That's a question that I have.
I think it's like a cultural thing,
Yeah.
you know. I think it's like a cultural thing. Like I feel like us, like we've been exposed, I think, to both cultures. We've been exposed to the African side, and we grow up in the Western world, so also socialized by our surroundings. So I feel like us, like if our parents tell us, oh, so and so's kid is so bad, we'll be like, okay, but it's not the
I
parent.
always correct mine, like,
Yeah.
and my parents have this thing, but they don't compare, me to
To other
other
kids,
kids.
yeah.
It's very wrong,
Mhm.
also. So I think parents need to stop comparing children. Just believe in your child. And then going back to what you said about pressure, education before marriage. Sometimes it's different for most people. There are some parents in Africa that they don't
don't
know
care.
what education
I know
is.
many people
They don't
that-
care about
Oh,
that.
that,
It's just
yeah.
they want you to get married before education. You get?
Mhm.
So sometimes you know, what about those people who live in the villages? They don't know what education, they don't know what school is. What to them it's marriage.
Yeah.
You know?
But I think for here, most Africans now have this more, like, have this whole idea that, like, you need to be educated or have a formal education, like, before you.
I guess like that. Like, I feel like here in Canada, it's like that, especially for our parents who are here, is that they want a better life, and they always want you to feel like, okay, if in case you're struggling in your marriage, you know, or you don't always have to depend on your husband to get money or whatever, but because you went to school, you had a degree, you have a diploma, you have this, you'll be good to go. At least that's my security. And some parents, it's just an honor. Like, you know, the Word of God says to honor your mother and father. And maybe your parents, all they ask for is just a degree or a diploma. And they may not say you must get a degree in medicine or in law or whatnot. It's just go to school, get your degree, and I'm good. You can get married. You know, some parents, that's a deal breaker for marriage, because they just want to see. Some parents, they also want to see their child do something that they didn't get to do. You know, they want to see their dreams achieved in their kids. Like, you know, and I mean, I can't blame my parents if that's what they want for me, because I want that for my kids, you know what I mean? Like, I want my kids to do something that I wasn't capable to do and to even do better, you know what I mean? But I guess it's just some African parents haven't adapted to the Western culture,
so they don't know how to balance it.
Don't know how to balance
and
it.
It's just always a culture clash. I feel like there's, like, personally for me, like, growing up and what I've seen, I always feel like, especially with Africans, and I've seen this like with family members, cousins, and other people that come from other African countries, it's like there's this like this big pressure to like have this education, to have this like not only your education but just establish this career, you know, and like psychologically, like maybe from your age of like 20 to like even 27, like, you know, like you're still like developing, you know, you're learning a few things, you know. Most of the time, like at 20 years old, you might not know what you want to do, you know, and that's like, it's okay sometimes, but I just feel like sometimes in our communities or in like with our families, there's just like such a strong pressure. Okay,
pressure to pick something.
I feel like it's just a pressure
to know
to like,
exactly what you want to do.
Like step by step, like, you know, like education, career,
I don't
get
know,
married.
they expect to know.
No,
So it's not always the case for everyone. And I think it depends on you. You have to talk to your parents, you know, let them know.
But
because you can force a child, okay, I want you to become a doctor. They don't want to become a doctor. They don't know what they want to become. You pay like how much, $50,000 as an international student, and then the results be what are you going to do? It's your fault, not theirs, because they told you I wasn't ready.
And I feel like a lot of those things could be évité. Sorry, I forgot the word in English, but avoided. Could be avoided if parents, African parents, you know, I'm not saying be soft, but I feel like if they learn how to comprehend and integrate and have a relationship with them when it comes to that, because I feel like a lot of things like it that happened in our lives could have been avoided if they understood, if they took the time, because we come into the world and before we know what the Western culture is, we actually get to know what the African culture is right away. We don't learn, when we learn the Western culture is when we go to school. Let's be real, because we're with
and
our
the media
parents,
too.
and media, because after that, like, we're like right away in our minds, this is how you must respect your elders, you know. But you know, the Western culture is, you know, if an elder disrespects you, you have the right to tell them that no, you did not do this right. You know, you can correct them. And I just feel like because we've been completely forced right when we were born to the African mentality, I feel like it's not fair for us, because it's like some of them just don't want to understand what it is, because they feel like the Western culture is rebellious when it's not.
Not everything
is rebellious, but let's be honest, some of the things that happen in the Western culture do help us.
But then again, like, everything has a disadvantage. That's what I've noticed. The Western culture does have its disadvantages.
And so does the African culture.
It
does have a disadvantage, because, like I said, I feel like so many things that happen in the African young people's lives could have been avoided if they took the time to understand what it is like to be a young person here. Because we got to understand what it is to be an African, but here.
Yeah.
But then when you say here, are you saying that there's a difference between here and in Africa?
Yeah, I feel
Yes,
yeah,
because
that's
What
complete.
difference are you talking about now?
Because I understand. Okay, I feel like maybe in the time that we were growing up, there was a difference, but I feel like now in 20th century, not so much.
There's not,
Because
yeah.
the Western world has the influence and the idea is like it's very prominent.
Right now is so influenced by the Western world. I won't lie, it scares me. I don't want my child to be Westernized, like so West. I actually don't want it. There are very, there are negative sides to this Western, like the Western world. And then, what you were talking about the African parents, and I really think that what we need to address is the relationship we have with our parents.
Yes.
You have to sit down sometimes and actually talk to them. Like I love my dad. He's also a Christian. I think that's why he's very accepting. Like he's like, okay, talk to me. What do you want to do? And sometimes parents need to think, who are they going to blame if this child doesn't come out properly? So that's why he's like, okay, choose what you want to do. I'm not going to force you. I'm not going to put pressure on you. That's the kind of relationship that African children need to have with their parents. You need to at least be bold. These are your parents. They love you. They understand you. Some children are just like submissive and just, I don't want to talk about it. Okay, that's what you want me to do. That's what you want me to do.
Yeah.
But some parents
But it depends
don't
on your
have,
Afro-
yeah,
parents.
it depends. Like that's what I'm
But
saying.
there are other mediums though. I'm very sorry.
Yeah.
Like parents are, respect is something that's a major topic in Africa. I'm sorry. So your parents have this. If they're Christians, they have those pastors. Talk to your pastor to talk to your parents for you. They will listen.
But
There's
you
always
see, in
someone that
African households, talking to your pastor before to talk to your parents is
It's
like
a problem.
you're trying to get
It's
beat
a
up.
disrespect.
some are not all.